This week on The Record, government shutdown, what's at stake, and who's to blame.
Republicans had every opportunity to sit down with Democrats and work this out months ago.
We hear from 2 local Democrats in the House and 2 local Republicans in the Senate.
There is no reason for a shutdown.
What reasons Democrats give for digging in and how Republicans are hitting back, what it could cost families for health insurance, and control of Congress. Can a Democrat win against Ann Wagner? Why that fight is a steeper uphill climb, and who's jumping in. Plus, Sam Page faces a well-known challenger, the state senator running for county executive as a Democrat. On The Record, exclusive interviews and original reporting all coming up right now. Welcome to The Record. I'm Mark Maxwell. Our federal government shut down this week for the first time in 7 years. The shutdown itself, a symptom of dysfunction and division, a sign that our elected officials have failed in some way to do their jobs and agree on a path forward. How and why they disagree, and whether or if they find a path back to agreement, all matters a great deal. Yes, for politics, but more importantly, for policy. For example, how much should you have to pay for health insurance? If your job doesn't provide it and you purchase it through a state government exchange under the Affordable Care Act, that cost could soon double, a lot less affordable. That's according to the Kaiser Family Foundation. Their expert analysis looked at the Republican tax plan, which cuts those taxpayer-funded subsidies and shifts the costs to people who buy that insurance plan. That's why Democrats have seized on this issue, to try and corner Republicans and blame the party in power for driving those prices higher. Reporters caught up with Missouri Senator Josh Hawley on Capitol Hill on the day the shutdown began.
I don't know. That's what worries me. I don't know why. I just say to my Democrat colleagues, there is no reason for a shutdown. I mean, it's going to threaten Medicaid reimbursements. It's going to threaten VA services. It's going to threaten farmers, USDA, farming services. I'm just thinking about things in my state that are really, really important. Military service members' pay, national parks. I mean, I just go on and on.
Across the aisle, Senate Minority Whip Dick Durbin suggested the public opinion will shift in the days ahead when people start feeling that financial pain.
When the reports of these hospitalization premiums start arriving in the mail in the next 24 to 48 hours, this debate is going to change. People are going to realize that the big, beautiful Trump budget bill is destroying their home budgets for their families.
Meanwhile, the White House and some Republicans in leadership pointed to a small fraction of the equation to try and change the subject altogether. Out of 24 million Americans who get their health insurance plans through Obamacare, roughly 500,000, maybe 1 million of them are immigrants, here legally with protected status under our nation's laws and with promises from our government they can stay here. So while they're here, with our government's permission, how should they pay for their medical visits? Out of pocket, or should they be allowed to pay for insurance on the same plans as their neighbors? President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance highlighted that population to try and define the entire issue. And they used artificial intelligence to put this sombrero on Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, inviting accusation of racism from some Democrats.
No surprise. That's the way Donald Trump operates. He doesn't take government seriously, even when a government shutdown is looming.
I thought it was hilarious. I think people take that stuff too seriously and try to find political hay to make out of it. It's a funny video that was posted, although I do think it probably is telling that the Democrats' demands right now are just totally unreasonable.
Reporters followed up to ask Senator Eric Schmitt about the White House's plans to start making deep and lasting cuts to the federal workforce during this shutdown.
I wouldn't advise the president from firing workers. No. I mean, that's what's going to happen. So, again, that's what's going to happen because the government will have no money to pay people.
While we watch from afar, we invited local members of Congress to explain what they're doing about all this on the record. Congresswoman Nikki Budzinski was the first to step up to the mic. What does all this mean for young families in central and southern Illinois?
We're going to have more hungry people, more hungry children in this country, in the richest country in the world. And you have to ask yourself why. Why are they making these cuts?
So what's your message to families in your district who can't afford that? And what's your plan to keep those costs down if this shutdown continues?
Yeah, to the 17,000 constituents that I represent that are going to see their premiums skyrocket because of the Trump administration. This is heartbreaking because what you see is healthcare in this country, again, the richest country in the world, becoming less affordable, less accessible for families that are working, just trying to make ends meet.
So Republicans, as you've seen, they're framing this fight as Democrats trying to give away healthcare to undocumented immigrants.
When you're losing a fight, you distract and you lie. And that is just quite frankly what the Republicans are doing. What I hear from constituents in my district is they are making very difficult decisions that the Trump administration refuses to acknowledge.
And next up, we turn to Congressman Wesley Bell. How do you explain to Missourians why Washington couldn't keep the lights on?
I think most folks know what's going on. This is a Republican shutdown. They control the House, Senate, the presidency, and there's some red lines that they crossed. Cutting health care. The health care costs are going to skyrocket for 56,000 Missourians.
Republicans say that Democrats want to subsidize coverage for, quote, illegal immigrants. Democrats push back, say that's a lie, that many of those people have legal asylum and are here. They're just not citizens. Where do you draw the line on who should and who should not be eligible for taxpayer-funded subsidies?
You know, I think Leader Jeffrey said it best. That is a Republican talking point, and being diplomatic, it's just a lie. None of that has been brought up in any conversations, and I think we all know that that's just gaslighting.
At the end of the day, is all this back and forth really just about posturing ahead of the midterms?
We know that the cost of health care is skyrocketing. They know that folks are losing their health care, and they know that Americans are upset about it. That's why they're doing this redistricting, because they know that they can't win on the issues. They know they can't win fair and square. They got to cheat.
Also this week, Governor Mike Kehoe authorized the Missouri National Guard to join ICE teams in Missouri. 15 Guard members started clerical and logistical work Wednesday, the federal government footing the bill for that year-long mission. But in St. Louis, some are questioning the governor's priorities.
I am more interested in making sure that our community is safe from violence than I am from making sure that we have documentation in order. That's the way that I feel like our city is growing in population, and I believe our foreign-born community is vital to our economy.
Governor Kehoe says Missouri National Guard members were assigned to this mission on a volunteer basis. A Democrat sets out to unseat a Republican. Why a new congressional map isn't stopping Fred Wellman's run for the 2nd Congressional District. Missouri Republicans muscled through a new congressional map ahead of the upcoming midterms, and those changes carved Democrats out of a seat in Kansas City. Also gave incumbent Republican Anna Wagner a bit of a marginal boost in the St. Louis suburbs. The old district favored Donald Trump by 8 points, the new ones by 12. So can a Democrat beat those odds? My next guest thinks he can. Fred Wellman joins us on the record. Fred, it's good to have you with us.
Great to be here. I appreciate it.
For those of our viewers who may know you as a commentator or a political consultant, what experience do you think makes you qualified for this job in Congress?
Is anybody really qualified for that job in Congress? I think that's the whole point of our Congress, right? It's supposed to be average Americans who step up to represent their communities. You know, I had 22 years in the Army. I was a veterans advocate for 10 years after that. I've been involved in, politics and here locally for 4 years. I've been working with a lot of people. In the end, I recognize that the role is in the title, representative, and what our community needs is someone who represents that community in Washington, D.C. And I believe I can do that. I've been very fortunate to be a child of St. Louis and Kirkwood, actually, and I'm ready to go represent them.
There's campaigning and there's governing.
Exactly.
I think you would acknowledge that every candidate has to talk at some point, but then they have to do at other points. How do you weigh that? People that might know you as a political talker might want to know, what are you going to do for them?
Well, I'm actually a doer. I was in operations and a pilot in the Army, right? So most of my career has actually been about putting together plans and operating. I went to New York to run a COVID field hospital. I ended up being the chief of staff when I arrived. I built a hospital. I've come back. When I came here to St. Louis during the Afghan evac, I organized to get the refugees to supplies and donations. So I'm actually a doer, and what we need is someone who can tell their story effectively, but also roll their sleeves up and get to work. It feels like in a lot of ways we're currently represented by someone who's more interested in a photo op and a discussion than she actually is doing work for us here in Missouri.
Okay, let's get to some of the things you want to do.
Yeah.
You're a veteran.
Yes.
You know your way around a weapon.
I do.
Should the federal government ban assault weapons?
That's a tough question. I think we have to have real safety restrictions. Look, I am totally for the Second Amendment. I grew up with weapons. My dad was a World War II Marine, for God's sake. I was taught how to shoot at 7 years old in a quarry out here in West County. But by that same token, when I joined the Army, we weren't just handed a weapon to do whatever we wanted with. I had a background check. It was stored safely. Ammunition was stored separately. I was required to shoot it properly. I was trained in it. If I made a mistake, I was punished for it under the UCMJ. Those are reasonable things that if we applied those to America today, we'd have a lot less gun deaths from accidental discharges, from kids getting hold of weapons, from weapons being stolen because they weren't secured properly. I don't know if the government needs to actually ban that. I think that could be extreme in a lot of corners.
Some states have done it.
Some states have done
localities
it with some, and we did see success when they did it the first time.
I don't think Missouri's going to do that in Jefferson City,
No
but
way.
should Congress do it?
I think it's time we had real talk about gun safety, restrictions, ensuring that people who have a weapon understand it's a deadly weapon. With the process you go through to be licensed in a car, to be insurance, why would you take the idea of an actual deadly weapon and not have those kind of restrictions? There is a time we have to talk about this. You can have all the weapons you want, go for it. My brother collects antique guns. God bless him, enjoy it.
All right, I hear
we
you
should
that
have some rules in place.
Should have some rules in place. I hear that you've considered the issue, you've weighed the issue, the licensing, the requirements, the safety,
Yep,
the training,
I have.
all of that. There's a bill on your desk.
Yep.
You're a member of Congress. Ban assault weapons. How are you voting, yes or no?
I will vote yes.
You'd vote yes. All right, thanks for that clear answer. Republicans accuse Democrats of runaway spending on things like Ukraine aid. As a veteran, where do you draw that line? How much military or financial support is too much?
Look, the thing about the military is, one thing I learned in my service, I actually served on the staff of the Army Central Command. And what I learned there was that military aid helps our allies. It's not just giving weapons in a war, it's also training our partners, helping them secure their countries, be prepared to defend themselves. My frustration right now is that we are looking very shortly at just numbers of money. We invest in our partners, we invest in foreign aid. USAID was a defense
You'd restore those
organization.
Trump cuts?
In a minute, in a hot minute. USAID was my partner in Iraq on a lot of important work we did, from building wells to building chicken coops for Iraqis. You know what? That made them safer because they didn't turn to crime, they didn't turn to terrorism to attack us.
So government shutdowns. Under any circumstance, would you ever vote to shut the government down?
I will fight for the people. In this case, the Republicans refused to negotiate, and they've taken away health care from over 21,000 people in CD2 alone.
Sounds like
no
a yes.
good
You
reason.
would vote.
I would vote for a yes. Yeah.
To shut the government down. If you
No, I think you're framing that question so wrong, Mark. The Democrats did not shut this government down.
The Senate
last time I
Democrats
checked,
did.
yeah, but you know what? That's because the theory in our legislatures, they're supposed to actually work together to get things done. The Republicans aren't even trying. They're trying to frame the Democrats as being the bad guys in this. No, the White House did this, Senate did this, and the House Republicans. And look,
Well,
let's be honest
Chuck
about
Schumer
this.
is calculating that this is a fight worth having.
Well, I think it is, because you know it's time we stop. Look, bullies don't back down when you just give in everything they want. At some point, you have to stand your ground. Look, my daughter owns a small business outside of Washington, D.C. She is going to suffer from this government shutdown. My friends are military members. My friends are veterans. I'm a veteran. But the fact is, at some point, if we don't start stopping and holding our ground against these attacks on our freedom, attacks on our fellow Americans, he's going to just keep on punching. Look, the one thing we've learned about Donald Trump and his Republican partners is no matter how much you give them, they're going to take more.
Fred Wellman, I wish we had more time. We'll
too.
catch up with you on the campaign trail. Thanks for your
Yes, sir.
time.
Appreciate it.
We're back in a moment. St. Louis County Executive Sam Page could face a tough test in any bid for re-election. His new challenger has experience winning elections in the county. State Senator Brian Williams joins us now on the record. Good to have you with us.
Mark, it's good to be with you.
Senator, is the St. Louis region moving in the right or wrong direction?
Well, I don't think it's a question about whether or not it's moving in the right or wrong direction. It's about whether or not we have leadership that has the vision to take us to the next century.
But right now, are we moving in the right or wrong direction with the leadership we have today?
Well, I think there are some challenging issues, and I think St. Louis should tell its story better, and I think that plays a big role into leadership. I think about the fact that St. Louis County and the region makes up 45% of the GDP, meaning our region drives the economy, but in other parts of the country and state, it doesn't feel like it.
Voters want to know what mission, what goals you will set out to achieve. You're a Democrat. Sam Page is a Democrat. When I review your public statements next to his, your voting record next to his, they're almost indistinguishable. There's a lot you guys have in common. So how are you going to make that case to voters? If you had to pick one word that sets you apart from him, what is it?
Collaboration. My ability to collaborate. I brought people together from various backgrounds. I've done it in Jefferson City, which is one of the toughest governments to navigate in the minority party, to bring over $100 million back to our region, whether it's advocating for a public safety facility, the demolition of Jamestown Mall, an engineering program for the University of Missouri St. Louis. Those things have created a distinction, not only for me as a Democrat in the minority party in Jeff City, but my ability to work with people, but also bring members of the council to the table to get some of these projects done. I think that collaborative attitude is necessary for St. Louis. I think in a nonpartisan, apolitical government, I would love the opportunity to be able to talk about issues that enhance the quality of life for people in this region and ensure that we're moving forward and becoming a region that people want to live, play, and work in.
For a nonpartisan government body, they sure do find a lot of different reasons to squabble. We can get into that
Absolutely.
perhaps later. You were recently asked a similar question about what sets you apart from County Executive Page, and you said, quote, you're different than him because you know to, quote, to not take taxpayers' money and utilize it in ways that does not benefit the region. Where has Page done that?
Well, it's not about just what he's done. It's about the fact that most of the money that's been spent at the county level has been either trying to win the day and get political points. They've either been
Like
how
Prop
can we
B?
sue each other? I mean, there's been countless lawsuits that we've seen because of mismanagement of the county. And again, this isn't about the executive. This is about running an efficient government that operates day to day, that's providing services and make people feel that they're close to government.
Are you referring to Prop B when you said, because they used Rams money, both to put that question on the ballot and then to try to campaign against it?
Well, I think that's one example. And again, even with Proposition B, it was a symptom of the dysfunction.
How'd you vote on that, by the way?
Well, I don't think that departments' heads should be ever under scrutiny of a council. However, I believe that the council members, just like I do in the legislature, should have access to department heads to talk about any issue that allows them to better serve their constituents.
In a public setting?
In a public, private, meeting room, whatever's necessary.
I'm going to put a finer point on that question. If you were
Yeah.
county executive, would you require your agency heads to testify in public before the county council?
I would require my department heads to be accessible as subject matter experts to talk to anyone they need to ensure to advance the interests of the county or ensure that people in the county are getting answers they need to ensure that their services are being provided to
But
them.
not necessarily in a public hearing?
I mean, it depends. I mean, clearly, if they are talking about a budget or they're talking about things that we can do to enhance their departments, absolutely. To be in front of a panel of people to be treated
Grilled?
in an unfair way, probably not. But again, I don't think that there's any issue in the county that we can't come together and have department heads that are willing to be in front of people and talk about what they're doing great. And I think it's my job as the executive to hire the best and the brightest people that can do that and lead our county forward.
Interesting. Name one decision Sam Page has made that you would make differently.
I don't know if it's about a decision that Sam Page has made. I think it's simply about my record and my accomplishments. I can tell you decisions I've made that I think is going to be able to help the county go forward. That's being able to work in a legislature with people on both sides of the aisle to deliver hundreds of millions of dollars back to our region. It's about being able to work with local leaders. I have 46 municipalities coexisting with local mayors to be able to advance things that make our region stronger. Being able to work with stakeholders and the business community to be able to come together to get things done to ensure that we're upholding the fact that, again, this region drives the economy for the entire state. And if we tell our story better and we have leadership that reflects that, then I think we put ourselves in a position to compete with the rest of the world.
State Senator Brian Williams, a lot more we could cover. Thanks for your time. I'm sure we'll have time as the campaign continues.
Mark, thank you so much for having me. It's been a great time.
We have much more of that conversation with Senator Brian Williams on the free 5+ app tomorrow. An extended episode of The Record is there. As we examine the causes and controversies swirling around the government shutdown, let's stop to check the record. Just 6 or 7 months ago, top Senate Democrats faced down this same predicament. Then they made a very different political calculation. Yes, they had more time until open enrollment began and health care costs would start to spike, but back then, Senator Dick Durbin defended Minority Leader Chuck Schumer's decision not to shut the government down over it.
If you shut down the government, there are unintended consequences. Innocent people suffer. I've seen it happen, and the president has more power as a result of it than he has today. I don't think that's been acknowledged by some of my colleagues. But a president can decide what is an essential job and a non-essential job. And the courts are stopping him, saying, you don't have the authority. Under a shutdown scenario, the president does. But I have to tell you that a shutdown is something I've never voted for, and I would want to avoid it at any cost.
There was one cost Durbin and D.C. Democrats were willing to consider after all. It's their gamble that this fight over health care will help them at the polls if they can persuade the American public that their promises to drive those prices lower are a winning political issue. That does it for us this week. Until next time, we're off the record.